Welcome to InCabin from the creators of AutoSense. InCabin connects the global community of automotive interior specialists working on in-cabin safety, comfort, and productivity solutions through industry-leading events and knowledge sharing. We are thrilled to welcome Nisarg Pandya to the channel today and to InCabin, founder and CEO of drivebuddyAI. And Nisarg, welcome to InCabin. Good to see you, friend.
Thank you for having me, Carl. Looking forward.
Indeed. And let's start with an overview of DriveBuddy AI. So, what inspired you to expand globally? And then, maybe more specifically, how are you preparing right now for the European market?
So at DryBuddy, we started in India back in 2018. In 2018, we started building the product. So we are a completely indigenous product built in India, and we started deploying it across the logistics players in India. Since then, we have seen more than 3 billion kilometers of data, more than 5,000 drivers we have observed and analyzed on our platform. And India, since we started in India, we used India as a launch pad for our business, where we achieved a great success in closing the customers and working with a lot of OEMs for the OEM specific projects, as well as the GSR compliance, which are coming up in India. So we have been validated pretty much well in India. And that is the reason for specifically in case of driver safety, road safety, I think there are no geographical limits, because whichever part of the world you go, I think the problem remains the same. And when the technology is available, it should be scaled everywhere. And with that thought, we started expanding to Europe, US, Australia, some part of Southeast Asia. These are the countries we are now currently working and starting a pilot. We are also starting some pilots in London, UK. So we are looking forward to expand pretty much across everywhere across the globe. And InCabin Europe is one of our platform where we want to announce that okay, now we are pretty much available globally in terms of fleet and also for the GSR compliances to work with OEM and tier ones.
And to expand on that, Nisarg, a bit, so how does your DMS, your driver monitoring system, and then your ADAS platform, so how does your DMS and your ADAS platform handle complex and diverse driving environments like in India, where you started, where you were founded? And then how does that experience then translate to European roads or even elsewhere across the globe?
Yeah. So specifically, I think there are two aspects to it. One aspect is from the road side perspective, which we can cover in ADAS part. The second part is DMS, which is in-cabin monitoring. So we have in India worked with bus transporters, we have worked with employee transportation, and we have worked with trucks as well. Majority of our focus has been always on a long haul, line haul driving, where drivers are driving pretty much from 600 kilometers to 1,000 kilometers a day for faster delivery or e-commerce delivery, and that is where they are more vulnerable. Also in India, I think now the infrastructure and the road infrastructure has gotten much better in last few years, and which has made driving much more smoother, much more easier for a driver. That is also one of the root cause for a fatigue and a drowsiness, and which is what we have observed, that Indian drivers are prone to doing lots of activities when they are driving. And also it's a human nature, when there is some camera which is pointing at a driver, I think they are obviously going to resist it, or they're obviously trying to find a loophole, which ultimately gives us lots of corner cases that okay, what all cases could happen, what all overlapping areas are there when it comes to detection of a particular activity, whether a person is texting or whether a person is actually fatigued or a drowsy. Finding overlapping, finding technological solution, and making our AI work to detect all such cases have helped us to build a solution to a level where we have now achieved 94-95% of precision levels on our detections. We have observed all this 2.5 billion kilometers of data, what I suggested. And again, it has gone through 5,000 plus driver different phases, because when drivers start their journey, they are pretty much like, clean shaved and all. When they like, go through the 7 days of a journey and they grow a beard. So there are a lot of complexity, a lot of dynamical changes which happens on the face of a driver, which also makes it difficult to recognize in our driver recognition kind of feature for the fleet use cases. So these are all the challenges what we have observed in India. There are also the challenges of continuous driving, because in India there is still no regulation for a amount of driving you're supposed to do in a day. Because like in US we have a regulation of 8 hour driving, or somewhere else also there is a specific driving which is regulated. In India I think it is yet to come. So that is where the pressure and a load on Indian drivers are pretty high. That is where they tend to use phone, they tend to text, they tend to listen to the music, they tend to look here and there outside, which makes them more vulnerable towards risk situation on the road, and have helped us to build the algorithms and our AI which can detect all sorts of stuff. Similar is the case for the ADAS kind of cases, where we have been looking at a lot of city traffic as well as the highway traffic. Again, there is a variation in both kind of cases where you're dealing with the ADAS for a city level, where you have lots of population density, lots of vehicles are moving, lots of people are crossing from the front. So the detection level and the algorithm intelligence required is a little different compared to what you are going on a highway. So on highways also, what is the distance available for our driver? So what level of distance is required for us to detect? So that is where our algorithm has is have ability to start detecting from 80 meters from a monocular camera. And when we start tracking that particular object for a driver, to keep a real time intimation to the driver to maintain a sufficient distance. So this is all basically what we work on, and based on that, whatever evidences which comes from the cloud platform what we provide to the fleet companies, which we call it as a dope driver observation and profiling interface. That is where everything gets validated by a fleet manager as well as our internal AI team, that how AI has performed well. And with this continuous improvement approach with consistent AI upgrades, we have been able to achieve 95% plus precision levels in both ADAS as well as driver monitoring system. Handling all these complexities for the last 5 years, which has made us realize that okay, now we're pretty much ready for the global expansion, because the regulation wise, India and European regulations are pretty much same. So that is where I think we don't believe there are a lot of challenges from a technological standpoint. Yes, definitely we are currently working with one of the European test agency where we are validating our product for EU 2144 DDAWS and EDDW. We are one of the only and one of the very first company in India who has got a validation from Indian regulation ARAI for AIS 184, which is DDAWS. And India is now preparing to get these regulations in function from next year, which is 2026, for all commercial vehicles where such technology is going to be mandatory. So this is our motivation to expand, and this is where we believe that okay, now compliance perspective, the whole world is coming through on a very same page to have this technology becoming a standard fitment of all the vehicles for a driver monitoring system to increase and enhance road safety and a driver safety. That is where we believe that we'll be able to do pretty much well in the foreign market as well, specifically in European US market.
We're speaking with Nisarg Pandya, founder and CEO at drivebuddyAI, on the topic of regulations. To just continue that, how are you ensuring that you are in compliance with upcoming regulations, whether in Europe, India, or elsewhere around the globe?
Yes. So definitely in India, I think this year only government announced 5 or 6 different regulations which are related to DDAWS, forward collision warning, which is attached with emergency braking systems, lane departure warning system, blind spot information system, and moving off information system. This is specifically going to apply for all the commercial vehicles in India, manufactured from 2026, from April 2026 and October 2026. I believe DDAWS is already compliant in European region, which is already in place, and there are vehicles which are now coming up, which are equipped with camera-based systems, specifically with DMS, and which are doing all these functionalities. European regulations and Indian regulations are pretty much same technically. That is where we are now compliant with AIS 184 officially, where we have got a validation from Indian authority ARAI. We also have a validation ongoing process for EU 2144 EDDW and DDAWS with a European test agency, which we are expecting that before we come to InCabin, we will have the compliance report with us, which we are thinking that will be an advantageous for us to enter the European market and talk to OEMs in Europe. Similarly, I believe in Europe we have also regulations for blind spot and moving off information system. which is where as a company we are coming up with an embedded hardware solution where we are trying to come up with a single box solution for all five different compliances coming in both ways for software as well as hardware. So whichever works out, if OEM wants us to work on their hardware, we have a QNX and Linux based software available which could be ported on their particular platform. Or if OEM wants us to work on a specific hardware level and a hardware integration level, that is also the place where we have been making ourselves ready to deploy those hardware in European region as well as anywhere else in the world.
Let's talk more about your large scale fleet deployments. What are some results or key learnings or observations that you can share with us from some of these large scale fleet deployments?
Sure. In India, we have been working with a variety of customers, starting because I believe that when you work with trucking, also there are different, varieties of trucking and customers and drivers who are driving these different trucks. Whereas the pressure an e-commerce driver would take is completely different than a driver who is driving a hazardous material. Because in hazardous material, they might drive little less in a day, but the payload they carry is very risky. So one small mistake can not only ruin the truck or a payload, but also is dangerous for the surrounding ecosystem where the accident happened. Similar is the case for e-commerce because now I think the world is moving on a mobile tabs where we order something and we want something in 10 minutes or half an hour. This ultimately puts a lot of pressure on e-commerce companies to deliver much and much faster, and the last pressure goes on to the truck driver who is driving and taking the goods from one warehouse to another warehouse, which is where they have a very high pressure timelines to reach a particular destination, makes them more drag more for a driving in against their own capacity or their own capability in a particular day. We are working with a lot of e-commerce companies, and that is where we have a great experience working with e-commerce driver observing. And e-commerce, I think they have a major problem of fatigue and drowsiness. In our customer segment, we have observed 82 to 85% of reduction in drowsiness cases over the period of 6 months with our fleet customers. Similarly, when it comes to seatbelt compliance in India, also we have truck drivers who are a little reluctant to wear seatbelt when they are driving, and that is where, despite the now vehicles are coming up with a beep, but they bypass it by just plugging it into the particular socket instead of wearing it fully. So that is where now with the camera based system we are able to generate seatbelt alerts, and we have seen 72% more compliance from the drivers in just 3 months amount of time with our AI based alerts. Similarly, for the cases of a phone usage, talking on the phone and distraction is one of the largest risk factor and risk area for our drivers across the globe, which is where we have observed 62 to 65% reduction in just 3 months period of time, where our AI alerts are given to the drivers whenever they are using phone. Similarly is the case for a collision warning in ADAS, and that is where we have seen 60% compliance in terms of driver braking at the right time, saving a lot of distance and a buffer distance for them to avoid any kind of accidents happening in terms of when they are speeding, when they are driving on a highway very close by with a front vehicle. In all these cases, we have seen a lot of fleets saving more on accident saving, having a lot of 6 months or 1 year span when there are no accidents recorded, any major or minor. So we have a lot of customers who have gained a lot on their ROI perspective from the fleet, and that is where we also are confident pretty much in a way that our AI has delivered pretty much good ROI to the customers in India in terms of fleets. Similarly, we have started working with OEMs as well, where they have validated our AI, where they have been pretty much interested in working towards taking it as a standard fitment for the upcoming regulation. So we already have ongoing associations with Indian OEMs in this regard as well.
Nisarg, with everything we've been discussing, from the regulations to the large scale fleet deployments, what trends do you see right now for the future of in-cabin, whether that's in India, whether that's in Europe, or even globally? What trends are on the horizon right now?
Yeah. So everywhere, I think we have been talking in terms of global opportunities. I think recently we had interaction with Australian fleet owners. Before that, we were working with some of the UK-based fleet owners, and we were talking to people in US and Europe as well. I think pretty much everywhere, driver safety, distractions, these are all the common concerns. And I think now the technology is pretty much available everywhere across the globe, which can mitigate this. the simple trend which I am seeing from like markets to markets varies. That in India now, also India is moving towards not only cost based benefits, but also impact based analysis and a customer acquisition, which is happening, that where customers are looking towards more impactful solution, not just a cheaper solution. Similar is the case for a US market, where now people are looking for a high quality video. People are looking for a much better sensible alert whenever they are coming in time. It should not give an alert when driver is probably using a cluster. It should not give an alert when driver is looking in the mirror. So these kind of cases which are coming up when customers are now becoming more cautious about just throwing an alert to throw a sensible alert, and that is where I think the trend is going to go, and which requires a lot of AI, a lot of learning from the corner cases across the world. And that is where we believe that we have an edge, because we are consistently improving every day from our fleet based learning, which is driving millions of kilometers, and which is where the learning is coming from the field. And the learning which comes from the field can give you much better result in terms of accuracy and precision. And that is where we believe that from the OEM fitment as well, whenever we deliver the AI, that AI will have a much more higher accuracy and higher precision to cover all this kind of corner cases.
Nisarg Pandya, founder and CEO of drivebuddyAI, a pleasure to have you with us. Looking forward to seeing you in person in Barcelona for InCabin Europe 2025, October 7th through the 9th. Again, looking forward to seeing you there in Barcelona. But until then, friend, thank you for being with us virtually anyway.
Thank you so much, Carl, for having me. Looking forward to the event in Barcelona, and looking forward to like meet with a lot of partners and OEMs and tier ones and there. Thank you so much.
For more information on DriveBuddy AI and to find out more about our upcoming events, see the links in the description or visit InCabin.com. That's InCabin.com. For more in-depth interviews like this, subscribe to this YouTube channel and follow InCabin on LinkedIn. In Detroit, on behalf of InCabin, I'm Carl Anthony.